was,
Thank you, Sarah. Probably then.
Yeah.
It feels out.
I'm sorry.
I was gonna make an announcement that we're getting ready to start, but it looks like everyone's here and we can go ahead and get started. Board Chair Lori Nice and Regional Director Colby Stanton. Distinguished colleagues, proud family and friends, welcome to the 2023 Oregon Federal Executive Board Associates Program Graduation Ceremony and Final Presentation of Team Projects. Thank you for being here. Your presence today shows that you support this program and leadership development. It also shows that you believe in this class of rising federal leaders. So thank you so much for being here and traveling to be here today. Graduates, welcome. This is your big day. You have over the past year poured yourselves into a challenging program of coursework. You've created real life products and services that could be used for the Federal Executive Board. You've also honed your leadership skills under the guidance of our instructor, Chris Dennis, and through mentoring with your mentors. So congratulations on that. You've endured the pressures of having to balance your full-time jobs and also your home life and your family life, and also the course. Oh, it's the coursework, and then also your team projects. So that has probably been a little bit challenging. You've embraced feedback and you have emerged stronger and sharper and more prepared to lead in the complex federal government that we all get to enjoy. So thank you for that. I had the opportunity to attend some of your classes and then work with you, and I am so impressed by your talent, by your passion, and by your dedication that you show for public good. So I am just so honored to be here today. Oh, I should say my name is, by the way, my name is Stephanie Odell. I am a program specialist on detail with the Oregon Federal Executive Board. So thank you all for being here. A couple more announcements. This is a hybrid ceremony. So we do have people joining us online. Hi, Hello. Hi, Dee.
Hi, Dee.
Yeah, one of our associates couldn't be here today, so he's online.
Oh, there he is.
But also there's some mentors, and then also members of the board that couldn't be here are able to join us online. So again, thank you to the associates for making us aware of that new option that we have in this hybrid work environment. Oh, for those of you online, I don't know how many there are, but you should be able to see two screens. One has the slides and then one has the speaker. And there's a little line in between both of them. So you can make one side bigger or smaller. So if you want to see the more detail of the presentation, you can move that slide. So just an announcement for those that are online. We're also trying to record the session with the help of Portland Community College, Adam and Aaron and the AD department. They're helping us to produce the hybrid event. So thank you to PCC for that. Safety moment. So on the other side of this door in the hallway is where our AED is located. So raise your hand if you know how to use an AED. Okay, so a lot of people know how to use an AED. So in the event that we have to use it and you don't know how, let's let someone who knows how to use that. Also out there is the first aid kit and the list of emergency phone numbers. So that's our safety moment for today. Also there's two exits. So you probably came in these exits, and if you had to evacuate the building, you'd go out the front door, and we would all gather by a blue light out there that says emergency. And if that front lobby door, for some reason we can't use it, there's exits on either side of this hallway, and restrooms are at that side of the hallway. There's a third exit back here that we can all hear the train, that's talking about airflow. So there's your safety moment. Okay, so TSA is here. So TSA ensemble, please join me up front, and you may all rise as they sing the national anthem for us.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the pale moonlight flowers, o'er the ramparts we watched, were so gallantly streaming. And the rockets rang the bursting through the night, that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner o'er the land of the free and the home of the
Thank you, TSA Ensemble. For our first speaker, I'd like to introduce you to Board Chair Lori Nice. Lori has several years, 20+ years of federal service with Bonneville Power Administration, where she is currently the Deputy Chief Administrative Officer. So Lori.
Thank you all for joining us today and helping us celebrate the success of our associates. Glad to have you all here today. So I wanted to talk a little bit about public service and touch on that. Most of the adults here in this room have probably had the first day at work. You remember your giant pile of paperwork and your employee orientation. When you go into a public service, especially a federal service position, you also have a swearing in. And you take an oath, which is kind of unique for most first days on the job. And I wanted to invite our associates and any other federal employees to renew that oath with me here today. So if you'll stand again. Right. Am I doing slides?
Oh, just hit the space bar.
Okay. And we're all gonna read it together. So I, Lori Nice, do solemnly affirm I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office on which I am about to enter. Thank you. You may be seated. So when you're looking at this, there's really, in my view, two parts to this commitment that you've just made. The first one is swearing allegiance to the Constitution to support and defend the Constitution. It's not swearing allegiance to a supervisor, to the president, to a certain political party. It's to the Constitution. And I'm sure when our forefathers put this together, foreign and domestic had a very different perspective than it does today. They didn't, I'm sure, foresee cyber terrorism or any of the other modern enemies that we see today, but it still holds true. The other part is really, I think, what we're here celebrating today, to well and faithfully discharge our duties. And that truly aligns with the professional development that our associates have taken on. These are rising public servants, demonstrating their commitment and ability to do their job to the best of their abilities. They're here with us today, raising the bar, so that they can give even more to our public and our those we serve. And I'm looking forward to the presentations they're going to share with us today. I wanted to make sure that we thank, as we start this celebration today, to thank the board, the policy committee members, the mentors especially, and also all of our staff that helped put this event together today. So thank you all, everyone in this room, for helping support and develop our leaders of the future. Thank you.
I think I'm gonna minimize Dean, sorry.
Bye.
Bye, Dean. It's fine. Okay, so to help us through our next portion, which is the presentation of the final team projects, I'd like to introduce to you our instructor for the year, Chris Dennis. So Chris Dennis is so amazing. He is so energetic and so knowledgeable. He has a lot of experience working with federal government. So is just such a great honor to have him with this program. So please help me in welcoming Chris Dennis.
I want to extend my welcome to all of you, real and virtual, to be here to support these very motivated, very effective people who are getting even more motivated and even more effective. I've got just a few seconds to talk about some of the work that they do before they give you the in-depth story on their work. This is in one way, a lengthy program. It's a year long. And another way, that year goes by in a flash. And one of the reasons it goes by in a flash is because from the moment people arrive into the program, they're involved in working on projects. And those projects, well, there's a certain fog that surrounds them at the beginning. It's an uncertain, we do not try to predefine the projects. One of the goals is that we develop leadership through identifying and fulfilling initiatives. So the initiatives that you're going to see were not handed on a platter to these people. These people used their brains, their knowledge, their insight of federal government, and more importantly, a synergy between divisions within the federal government to create something that supports all of the federal government. I'm about to get out of the way. I'm going to introduce first Team 1, and they're going to tell you about federal recruitment toolbox that they put together. That's Kingston Sherwa, that's Felix Ortega, that's Sarah Cassell, and that's Stephanie McNutt. And I do want everybody here to know that we are seeing an international partnership. Stephanie McNutt is with the Confederated Tribes of Coquille and Lower Umpqua. Get up here, people.
We are gonna pass around a couple of copies of our toolkit that we printed off for people to be able to view what our final product was.
Good morning, everyone. We are Team Potato Bottom. Today, we are going to talk about the OFEB recruitment toolkit that we have developed. And now, let us begin with introductions and the why for this project. As you hear from each one of us, the recruitment for and from underrepresented communities is deeply personal to us and to our own journeys into the federal government service. My name is Kingston Chirwa. I work for the Federal Highway Administration as a highway design engineer. I started my federal government service some 2 years ago. Before that, I worked for the Texas Department of Transportation from 2015 to 2021. And from 2000 to 2015, I worked for various private engineering consulting firms across the United States. And prior to this, I practiced as a civil engineer in my native country, Zambia. And so, for me, this project is particularly important as it aims at reaching out to communities with the same demographic makeup as mine, as they too can have equal access to available federal government opportunities.
And good morning. Am I sounding clear enough through the mask? Oh, perfect, perfect. My name is Sarah Cassell, and I'm the Regional Employee Engagement Program Manager for the Forest Service. I entered federal service in 2012 and served as a Peace Corps volunteer from 2004 to 2007. And I really had the opportunity to learn about all the possibilities for employment in the federal government through just a chance federal internship that I took on in school. As Kingston noted, this project is really personal. I came to the project with 8.5 years of experience in recruitment and over 20 years in communications and engagement experience. I'm passionate about workforce development and creating equity of opportunity for entry into federal employment.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Felix Ortega. I work for the Veteran Benefits Administration as a finance supervisor. So I entered the federal civilian service in 2016. Prior to that, I was in the Oregon Army National Guard. So how did I come into federal service? Well, growing up, my parents constantly pushed me to strive to be ambitious and be successful. Now, after many failed attempts in going to college, and yes, there were many, I finally, behind the support of my family, friends, and my spouse, I was finally graduating with my Bachelor of Arts degree in human development and starting my own family. Now, I didn't know very much about federal service, but my spouse's uncle worked for the Social Security Administration. He informed me of the benefits that becoming a federal employee could provide me and my family, the stability that we can have, the career I could develop, and also the retirement that I can have when I was done working. After 3 failed attempts at trying to get hired by the Social Security Administration, and yes, I did fail 3 times, I was finally, the door opened for me and I got hired by the Department of Army. So I am passionate about this project because there's opportunities for everyone, and there are people in underserved communities who feel that there may not be opportunities, but we're here to tell them that there are opportunities for them.
Hello, for my fellow cousins online, Dai. My name is Stephanie McNutt. I am representing the Confederated Tribes of Coos, Laramquah, and Sayusla Indians. I entered tribal government in 2004, doing various youth events and camps. In 2011, I began my journey in Tribal Gaming Commission, learning about compliance, regulation, policy. And in 2018, I began my journey in human resources. I started out as a receptionist, worked my way through all HR positions, and I'm currently serving as Director of Human Resources. I was introduced to the Oregon Federal Executive Board Associates Program while attending a session up here for the Federal Employees Health Benefits. That's a lot of acronyms. I asked if I, as other federal, could participate in this program. The question had to go to the board and it came back, yes, which has allowed me to be here today. So I really am appreciative to have been included and to benefit from this program. Thank you. Our group developed the Federal Employee Toolkit with the coordinated effort of providing more resources to recruiters and staff appointed with recruitment activity, with the resources contributed for and shared across local federal agencies. We came about this idea collectively amongst ourselves as an identified need amongst our represented agencies. Office of Personnel Management, DEIA annual report also identified recruitment as a priority. There were executive orders being issued regarding recruitment and calling for diversity. This project later solidified with the OFEB quarterly meeting held in February. Recruitment was a recurring issue communicated by almost all agencies represented. We realized that this project could be a potential resource that benefits all agencies. So as we go over the project, there will be some snapshots and an overview of what the guide's contents include. There was some background in this regarding qualitative research gathered through agency and partners, their experience with recruitment, some interviews, and research into best practices for diversity, equity, and inclusion recruitment.
And so here are some of the definitions and meanings of some acronyms, that OPM, has put together. The first one is equity. This means the fair, just, impartial treatment of all individuals, including those that belong to underserved communities that have been denied such treatment. DEIA stands for diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility in the federal workforce. DEIA ensures that all employees are treated with dignity and respect. And for the underserved communities, refers to the populations that share a particular characteristic that has systematically been denied full opportunity to participate in such aspects of economic, social, and civic life. The federal government is committed to ensuring that there is diversity, inclusion, and accessibility in all its work platforms for everyone throughout its workforce. And so the federal government, through the executive orders that Felix will cover next, mandates the federal government agencies to determine the barriers that impact people in accessing federal government employment, and ensures that the federal government agencies act on their findings.
So as you can see here, there are 5 operating principles for executing DEIA. So these principles were outlined in the White House government-wide strategic plan for advancing DEIA in the federal workforce. If federal agencies adhere by these principles, they will ensure that they comply with the executive orders that I will cover next. So these three executive orders really laid the foundation for our project. So as we did research and tried to figure out, where's the data and what's the basis for our project, these three executive orders really hit home. 13985, 14035, and 14091. And ultimately, these three executive orders aim to improve outreach and access to underserved communities, build an inclusive federal workforce, and establish timelines for federal government, for federal agencies to implement DEIA. So, statistics. These statistics are provided by the OPM DEIA annual report in 2022. These next three slides are going to show some statistics on a variety of diversity that was compiled from fiscal year 17 to fiscal year 21. This is the racial diversity makeup of the data compiled during that time frame. So I'm just going to say it. The statistics show it. This is what people who work in the federal government, how they identify themselves. The total federal workforce, as you can see here, 61.2% identify as white. Now, when you look at the senior executive workforce level, 75.67 identify as white. Next slide. This is a disability diversity. Now, there's different levels of disability diversity. You can see that targeted disability in the total federal workforce looks pretty low at 2.5%, but I will tell you that that has increased during the period that the data was collected. And here you're going to see veteran and gender diversity. Now, just like the other types of diversity that I've covered, the data was collected from fiscal year 17 to fiscal year 21. The trend is moving where there is more diversity coming into the federal workforce. Now, unfortunately, it's not moving so fast that it looks like a huge difference is being made. But based on the data and the numbers, the trend is moving in the right direction. And those executive orders that I covered are playing a big part in ensuring that the diversity of the federal workforce is a lot more equitable.
Thank you so much, Felix. And now that we've covered a little bit of the background and backbone of our product and our project, whoops. Excuse me. Oh. Technical. Oh, please. Flash those numbers again for posture. Okay. Thank you so much, Stephanie. I appreciate it. Give us another one. Thank you for your patience. We've covered the background and background of the project. We're going to go into a little bit about what our product actually offers and talk a little bit about the process. So our group identified more than 30 organizations meeting that criteria that Kingston mentioned for underrepresented. We personally reached out to each of these organizations, and this represented hours of qualitative interviews, conversations, dialogue, and just to get a sense of these organizations' relationship with federal recruitment, how they would like to be contacted, how they would like to have their outreach tailored to them. From that initial list, we have a cold list, of which you can just see a small snapshot here on this slide of organizations that truly want to increase, improve, or engage in a recruitment relationship with local federal agencies. And on the toolkit, each organization, if they have a specific way in which they'd like to engage, that's also noted. We also have collected the names of 17 recruiters and or outreach personnel from our OFEB agencies. And we're just hoping that this number will grow with the increased purview of the Federal Executive Board and with an additional participation from our federal executive agencies, hint, 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 in the years to come. And this project really is intended to be scalable. So, as the board grows and the purview changes, there's more outreach professionals that can be added and more organizations to be added to that component of the toolkit. Some of the agencies and the outreach professionals that we spoke to are already really engaging in strong DEIA-based outreach that's embedded into their practice. And that was really helpful for us in building our best practices in the toolkit. And we can only imagine that agency to agency, that this could be invaluable as we learn from one another. We have consolidated recruiter and organization best practices, both in a narrative and consolidated form. This is a laundry list of do's and don'ts, but a couple of key highlights that I just want to pull out. One is that across our interviews with both agency and organization point of contact, really stood out that recruitment is specialized sales. And as such, it is truly two-way relationship based. And it's the feedback that we received is it's really important to maintain that relationship, not to have it be a one-way e-blast. Here's the USA Jobs posting, or apply to this. Because if we want to recruit from communities and populations and people who are unfamiliar with federal processes, for whom a federal resume might be as bewildering as it was for all of us when we first did it, right? We have to be ready to invest in that time, in that relationship. And that was clear across all of our conversations. Investment is another thing. In our toolkit, we have noted which the DEIA and or equity action plan strategies for each of the agencies to which we spoke. A lot of these agencies have some component of recruitment or workforce development embedded into those plans. And as such, that means money, resources, and time to devote to mentorship, ongoing relationship development, and opportunities for the candidates that we seek. All of this is consolidated in our toolkit, of which, of course, there are a couple of hard copy guides circulating in the room. We've emailed them to Stephanie with the hopes that this will be disseminated both in locked and editable form to the board members and any staff members that want to use it, both on the board level, but of course, agency by agency as well.
Thanks, Sarah. As we are researching the information for the federal recruitment toolkit, we interacted with many members of the community who gave us good feedback on their perception on access to the federal government employment, as can be seen from these various quotations. This year, I volunteered to help with the Western Federal Alliance College recruitment program to recruit young civil engineers. This is a crucial need for our agency, and we already face a lot of competition concerning pay and hiring timelines from the private sector. Whilst recruiting at Montana State University, I was struck by a conversation that I had with an engineering student who told me that he didn't think he had the qualities to work for the federal government. Well, I want that student and any other candidate for that matter to feel that they all have an equitable chance of being considered for hire by the federal government. I want them to know that they're all desirable for government service. And so, please help us make this a reality.
And now we'd love to open it up for questions.
We'll do that for about a minute or so.
Question.
Yeah. Any hand? Yes, back, right?
Yeah, just with basing this on executive orders and those changing from administration to administration, is this toolkit flexible in that regard?
Absolutely. And Felix, you can talk to the executive orders.
Yeah, you know, you're right that executive orders change, but I don't think the goal of making the federal workforce more equitable and more, you know, equal representative of the population of the United States is gonna change. So I think even as executive orders change, I think that goal for the federal workforce is constantly gonna be there. And so the organizations that we did outreach to still represent, and, you know, they represent people that are qualified in a variety of skills that can qualify for federal jobs and can still meet that intent of the federal workforce.
Some of the agencies that are listed here have been doing this work and building out these plans, these recruitment plans, different administrations, across different administrations. So I think the desire in this room, and online, it's there, you know, it might be just a matter of adjusting the backing, financial backing potentially for these efforts. But, you know, as agencies are building out their recruitment staffing and figuring out how they're gonna do outreach writ large in this retirement boom, what a great way to embed these opportunities regardless of the administration and what comes from that.
Right. Please give a round of applause. We do a change. I wanted to introduce team 2. Come on up, team 2. Team 2 will give you some insight into a digital disaster deck. That team is made up of someone who can't be here today, Dean Inouye. Inouye, we saw him online. David Rice, Jenny Lyman, and Cam Wilson. Thank you.
Is Dean's mic enabled? Is he able to speak?
I don't know.
I don't think so.
We asked him and he said that you guys would be speaking, but we can promote him, panelist, if you want him to speak.
That's okay, let's.
He told me he wanted to introduce himself.
Oh,
but
he does.
If he told you something different today, that's fine.
Oh, let me see.
I can introduce him.
We can
Can
actually.
you guys hear me?
Well,
Hi, Dean.
that's the size of Dean.
Okay, hello, everyone. My name's David Rice. I'm with the Department of Veterans Affairs, the Veterans Benefits Administration. And today we're here to talk about digital disaster deck. First, I'd like to just, after having introduced myself, I'd like to say that I got started in federal service. I'm a veteran and I went to the VA hospital to apply for benefits. And I saw a sign there that really had a profound experience on my life. It said, the price of freedom is visible here. And from that day on, I not only had healthcare benefits, I had a job for life. So that's how I got into federal service. I'll turn it over to Jenny.
Hello, my name's Jenny Lyman. I work with for the U.S. Forest Service on the Mount Hood National Forest and the Columbia River Gorge National Scenic Area. I am just about 3 weeks and 2 years into my federal career. I previously served on for a local government agency, and then at the first 7 years of my career, I was in the private sector. I am the engineering and fleet staff officer for the 2 forests I mentioned earlier. Yeah, Nadine.
I'm Cam Wilson. I'm with the Bonneville Power Administration. Like my teammate David over here, I entered federal service through the military a really long time ago. No, I'm kidding. Feels like a long time ago. I am a business analyst with Bonneville Power Administration and I have about 16, 17 years of federal service. I'm not counting anymore at this point. Dean.
Good morning, everyone. I just want to apologize for not being there. I just feel a little bit bad not finishing that with you guys. I am currently on the injured reserve list. shattering my kneecap about a week ago. So started my federal service all with TSA. So 2012, starting off as a part-time officer, working my way up the ranks. Currently the transportation security manager in Eugene, and I did my whole TSA career in Eugene. So, and I'll probably finish my career in TSA in Eugene. So back to you guys.
Thanks, Dean. All right, we're here today to talk to you, as David said, about the Digital Disaster Day. So for our project, we started with the premise of developing something to do with disaster coordination around federal agencies. It's something along the lines of how they coordinate resources before and after a disaster. So we quickly discovered, as you might imagine, that a lot of that already exists. Agencies do a lot when it comes to disasters. So what we did is we started asking around, did a bunch of discovery interviews, and we realized there's a gap. And with the gap comes with the resources and coordinating resources for federal employees and their families. So we, so to begin our project, we started with two basic questions to build our product, as how federal employees in the region would, one, help themselves and their families before and after a disaster, and two, if they couldn't get back to work, how they could help their community. Wrong way.
Oh, you might have to click the mouse on the screen.
Yeah, anytime you click on D.
Got it. Okay, there we go. All right, so our proposal was right. We don't want to see that. Our proposal was an easy to access and use guide for federal resources for preparing for and surviving natural disasters in the Pacific Northwest. The benefit would be connecting federal employees with public and federal resources for disaster preparedness and relief resources. So in this, as we were working on this, we tried to think of a couple of times when that would apply. So we thought a couple of recent disasters. First one we thought of was the Santiam Canyon wildfires of 2020. If everybody remembers those, still clearing the smoke out of their lungs. These were the Beachy Creek fire, the Lions Head fire, and the P515 fires, and they burned over 400,000 acres, destroying towns, homes, all that kind of stuff. And what we thought of with this product was that this type of resource could have assisted people in preparing for that wildfire, whether with the encroachment or how to stockpile supplies, but all that kind of stuff that they could have learned. So it also would have guided them to where they would sign up and receive early warning alerts and how to obtain support following the disaster. All this in one spot, basically, without having to do any of all the research that you would have to go hunt down and do it all one location. The second one we talked about was the 2020 heat wave. Or excuse me, yeah, 2021 heat wave. If you remember in Portland, it got to 116 degrees. It was hot. That actually killed hundreds of people in the vulnerable population. So we thought with this type of resource, we could have helped people prepare with advanced warning mechanisms. And we'll talk a little bit about that in a sec with the advanced warning mechanisms. It also could have assisted people with helping vulnerable people with finding resources in their community like cooling stations. A good example of this, if those of you that know, or anybody know where to find a cooling station? Like, you don't count. But so you know that in Oregon, find cooling stations is actually a direct hotline that is managed by the state of Oregon. But the problem is you'd have to know, research where to find that and find the number and call it. So this kind of thing, again, would provide all those resources in one location. So.
So what we came up with in order to address this is a simple, quick reference guide for federal employees. We came up with a disaster deck. Next slide. So where we started was with a paper deck, the size of about a deck of cards, where each card would have a natural disaster on it. Or I guess not always natural disaster, a disaster on it, and a simplified list of resources. So this is where we started. After talking with some stakeholders, doing a little bit more research, we pivoted from the paper copy for a number of reasons, which we'll address in a second. Yeah, the limitations, hard to update, not sustainable, it's paper. Do you know where this piece of paper is when a disaster strikes? Is it at your desk and you're at lunch, or under your bed, 3 years out of date, that kind of thing. So we pivoted to the digital disaster deck.
I was actually gonna bring that little deck with me to use as a prop and I couldn't find it. To sell a point. So basically what we came up with was a digital disaster deck, because like Cam talked about, there is a vast number of resources on the internet concerning natural or any type of an emergency or disaster. We also wanted a media that was very easy to work and also that you would remember to take with you. Everyone usually has their cell phone, so this is what we came up with. The digital disaster deck meets your cell phone. Next slide, please. This is an image of what it could look like. Basically, it would be an app on your phone that would have natural and disaster and emergency relief information available at the click of a button. We could go to the next slide, please. This is what the interface would potentially look like. You'd have a number of disasters and you would actually be able to click on that for an information page that would give you further information. If you can slide that one. Here we see an example of wildfires. This is a list of resources that are available online. I'd like to, and we hope that this works. Yes. Ready.gov. If you don't get anything else out of our presentation, remember ready.gov. They have so much information about every possible subject. Great resource. But anyway, if you could scroll down on this just a tiny bit, it has a lot of different information. Maybe up just a little bit more, but tabs. Oh yeah, like how to prepare for a wildfire or staying safe during, after a wildfire. Again, just a huge amount of resources that would hopefully be available at the click of a button. If you could close this one. Hopefully we'll go back to the perfect.
Got it.
Another example of a page that we have is flooding. And here again is a list of some resources that are available. And if you could click on the Oregon Alert. Again, this is an excellent resource for people who are in Oregon. You can actually get emergency notifications to your cell phone. So this is an excellent resource that, again, we just wanted to combine in one easy to find place. We weren't trying to create the wheel with emergency plans. We just wanted to make the information close and available to everyone. And with that, I will turn it back over to Cam.
Thank you. All right, so one of the things is we did some more extended analysis on this project, talked to lots of people, figured out, thought about it a little bit more. We realized there's a real scalability possibility here from a regional one based on Pacific Northwest disasters to a national one, where we could talk about disasters across the board. A lot of benefits would come from this. So lots of interagency support and cooperation. So one, an increased budget for an improved project, which would always be nice. Agencies leverage for expertise. We could take, for example, SMEs or subject matter experts from FEMA or OPM for distribution, allow us to get to a broader audience with more exact data. And then developing clear roles and responsibilities for each agency involved, which would lead to really effective employment of federal resources, minimizing unnecessary redundancy. So we could make it much bigger. Going forward, one of the things we would need would be a funding resource. And as David talked about a little bit, we would need to go from what we have as a prototype stage. We'd have to contact a third party to help us actually code it out and build into a much more powerful platform. And then we'd also have to review emergency contact information and verify with all of our agencies we've been involved with. And then most importantly, we would need structure for that contact card to update. We'd need the agency to own it and update it on a regular basis going forward. And that's it. Thank you. I'd like to open you up for questions. Yeah.
We have significantly more time for questions.
We just talk faster.
I actually have a question. How many total resources did you identify in your current design? Wow, I don't think we ever
Like
counted.
for
It's
each disaster?
Sure, I'll take any number you got. I'm curious about.
So we had 9 disasters and there were a minimum of 10 resources for each.
Oh, wow. That's good. Yeah.
Most of them had a vast number amount past that.
The amount of disaster recovery kind of information out there is massive. I mean, it's all in these different spots, which is.
Yeah, I think
why.
that's part of the problem, right? Is that like. You might not know where to look. So I think that's what we coalesced around as we move forward, like create a space where. The information is collected in one location. Like, we're not attempting to become the subject matter expert on these disasters. Like you said, they already exist.
Yeah, that's good. Who maintains the Ready Doc? Was it, again, I've already forgotten, so you're gonna have to remind me. Was it ready.gov?
Yes.
Okay,
Ready.gov.
is that maintained by federal agencies?
Yes, it is.
And,
It's FEMA.
Yes, FEMA.
FEMA owns Ready.
and then a follow-up question to that is what percentage of what you're trying to include in an application like this is already on that site?
So I don't have a percentage for you. There is a good chunk that's on it, but it's back to what we were just talking about is there is so much information and it is just blown across the spectrum. So there's a lot on ready.gov. I mean, that's a great site, but you're not going to get to all of it. You definitely don't get to local resources very easily. For example, what we found, one of the great ones that's not there is Portland itself has a great emergency management program. It's very extensive and it's not on any of those. You have to go to the Portland OEM site to go find any of that information. So it's not all in one spot, but it's a great site, but.
Or like volcanoes was one of the disasters that I focused on, and we have local volcanoes here in case anyone. And there are more local there are agencies that are focusing on the volcanoes in our specific region, and you would not find that on ready.gov. You would find general information on volcanoes, but not ours.
Thank you.
We also tried to think of, if we're running for our life or something like that, we probably wouldn't have a time to search or, really find that information. That's why we wanted it in a very easy to find and accessible form.
And I think one thing we might have missed in our slides, maybe we did, but that the cell network comes up. It's one of the first things that comes back. Right after the fires that Cam was describing, I was out there shortly after. They've got truck mounted cell towers, right? So all the cables are laying on the ground, everything's destroyed, but that is a mobile thing that can be brought in and is frequently brought in pretty quickly because it helps the emergency responders, the people that are there dealing with the disaster and the immediate aftermath. So that cell network.
See a question in the back right there.
Yeah, this is, I guess, less of a question and just more of a thought that having it be a digital based cell phone application, perhaps if somebody has their location services on, it would be, maybe you live in Portland, but you're at the coast, there's an earthquake and a tsunami, the resources that you're coming up with would be local to where you're actually at.
That's that's a great idea.
That's honestly ingenious.
You're on.
Write
the
that
team,
down. That's a very good idea.
I was gonna say, kind of the same thing about evacuation routes.
Being local, yeah.
Kind of brings us back to our scalability, but the possibilities are kind of endless once you set up the structure to go ahead and have it. You can update it and expand.
This project really evolved. We went from this paper deck slide to, we were thinking maybe like a emergency contact, like in your phone, to basically it's gonna be an app. And we unfortunately just don't have the know-how to cross-platform between Android and Apple and all of that type of stuff. But we were able to make a working Adobe PDF, but it just needs to be incorporated into a cell phone.
So yeah, this is something that, the intent would be that OPM would, pick this up, or a future associate group could pick it up and take it to the next level.
Any other questions? Helpful solutions?
Yeah.
That is a very good idea. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, team. Well done. While we do a change of set, I want to introduce a leadership, team 3 leadership toolbox for boosting morale. And in the hybrid workplace environment with which we are all increasingly familiar. Hi, Dean. So you'll hear from team 3 and you'll learn their names soon enough with Naomi Eckstein, Paige Moniz, Dan Jensen, and Alejandrina Perez.
Thanks, Chris.
I was just like getting the line. Hello, everybody. Like Chris said, you will learn our name very soon. We are Team POW. If you haven't seen. We're scooching in. Thank you. I see that. Thank you. So yes, we are Team POW and we are so excited to be here to share this project with all of you. We wanted to start with some thanks and some gratitude. We know that this is taking out of very busy schedules and a lot of time, and this is a big time commitment. So we wanted to thank you as being the last team to present for the day. So we express our gratitude and our thanks for you being here. Like I said, we are Team POW and our project is the leadership toolbox to boost morale in a hybrid workplace. And Chris segued in beautifully to say, we're experiencing it right now, right? So we're excited about this project and we're excited to get it started. So I am Naomi, the same slide again, we tricked you. I am Naomi Eckstein with the Transportation Security Administration.
Paige Moniz with the Bonneville Power Administration.
Dan Jensen, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers.
Alejandrina Perez, Social Security. Okay, so we've introduced ourselves, we told you what our project is. Now, why? Why did we choose this project and why now? When we got together in the beginning of this year, we wanted to find something that all agencies were experiencing an issue with and something that we could fix. And one of the things that we noticed was the novelty and the newness of hybrid work. We found it increasingly difficult to communicate with our teams as effectively as we had before the pandemic. And we all thought, oh, well, if we're experiencing that among 4 different agencies, I bet it's a government-wide issue. And as you can see, demonstrated by some of the articles that we have up here, that is supported. We have found that this is an issue across federal agencies, and it is contributing to a federal government losing its efficacy and losing its stance as a thank you. I was like, we'll get there if we do the robot, right? That's how that works, I'm pretty sure. So we want it to be a model workplace, right? That's what the federal government wants to be. And we're going to touch on that a little bit with how that ties into OPM.
Thank you, Naomi. So the people are our why. And as we can see here, OPM's #1 goal is really to position the federal government as a model employer. That idea aligns with our strategies across agencies, as you can see here. Studies have shown that high morale in a team increases employee engagement, performance, creativity, team collaboration, better communication, and that in turn leads to less absenteeism. People want to be here. They want to be at work, right? And then we see our retention increasing. People want to stay. We're keeping our employees around. And these findings are instrumental as we transition into introducing our survey that we sent to the Oregon Federal Executive Board. We had a great turnout with, so thank you so much for that. And that was an integral piece to our refining our project and helping us refine what a leadership toolbox would look like for really boosting morale in a hybrid environment.
So let's talk about this survey we just spoke of. So one of the great things about this project we started, I remember bringing this up to my mentor, Kieran Ramsey, explaining some ideas we had, some thoughts. And he looked at me and said, so what? So what does it do? What happens if I don't do this? It's a fair point. So maybe before we get too carried away, just designing something that may or may not work or may not be helpful, let's really target it to what the need is. So that's what this 2-minute survey is that we developed, really focusing on what the morale issues were, what awareness of resources were present, and then what can we really identify as motivational strategies to help. So far so good. So as part of that survey, we went across all the federal agencies that really make up OFEB. I see quite a large spectrum. Over 500 people responded, which is great.
Thank you.
The vast majority of which were non-supervisory, which is great to see that kind of spectrum. A lot of people who actually really engaged doing the work, really felt time to put in energy into the survey, and about 22% supervisory. So some of the data clips here that we thought were really interesting as part of it. We asked the question, how are you currently reporting to work? And again, as you would expect, hybrid has taken a very dominant lead. So combined with fully remote and hybrid, 80% are working in a hybrid work environment of some type, whether that's fully remote at your desk all day at home, 2 or 3 days in the office, mix. The interesting thing we noticed too is that even though you may be working in the office 5 days a week, it doesn't mean you're not interfacing with hybrid teams. So it actually is a fairly larger number in some respects. So the other question we asked too is how invested is your organization in employee morale? And getting a feel for people what they feel about that. So interestingly, supervisors said they actually were a little bit less. There was about, they're saying 10%, less than 10%, or about higher than 10% rather, answered not really invested. They don't feel like that's really something that's a priority, which is interesting. You think supervisors might have a greater preview and have a better thought of that. Non-supervisors in comparison were a little bit less on the very invested. They didn't think there was as much investment in the morale as there could be. Interesting data.
So now that we identified the who, the how, our next questions help us identify the key factor. What is the missing link? Well, within our survey, we found out that 52% of the supervisors are unfamiliar with where are these resources. How can I get my team more motivated? Where are these resources? What am I missing? So clearly we need to educate and advertise these tools. Next. Our next question, provide us some really good ideas. And what we discovered is this. Our federal community has spoken. And the key to your team's motivation is through the belly. Share a meal. That is the common foundations to all civilizations. And within our federal community, we are a group that wants to be connected to improve our service to our community. Thank you.
So I personally love recognition. And recognition is really a key piece or a key ingredient to our recipe for success. Like she talked about through the belly, right? As we can see here, money, right? Everybody likes money, but money is not always available, right? It's not always a resource that we can use when we're trying to recognize employees. We see also that supervisors really appreciate team celebrations. We can identify with that. We can knock out more recognition at once, right? As a leader, we can recognize them all when we bring them together. But at a non-supervisor level, they didn't seem to like team celebration as much. And that could mean just that they really want to be recognized as individuals. I really want you to spend that time to share with me how much I am doing for your team. This toolbox that we have gives all sorts of ideas, right? So ideas that where we can use money and ideas where we don't use money, and really helps us to foster a culture of recognition amongst our team. Next slide, please. So another key ingredient to this recipe for success is motivation. We've got to keep our teams motivated, right? There has to be that motivation. And the number one finding was feeling like we're making a difference. Everybody wants to feel like what they're doing is making a difference. And as working for the federal government, we definitely want to feel like what we're doing is making a difference. You can't see it quite so well, but down here, we had a 20% statistically significant difference in work schedule flexibility. So as you can see, I'm going to step over here for a second. Feeling like we're making a difference and work schedule flexibility, this speaks to hybrid, right? Work schedule flexibility, those are almost even. And then right underneath this is feeling valued. So tie that back to recognition and then think about the 52% of the supervisory employees that we surveyed that were unaware of resources to meet this.
Okay, so we've talked about the who, the why, the what. Now let's talk about the how, okay? We've built this project to help. That is what we want to do. We want to help, and we wanted to focus on two major factors that you can see up there. We wanted it to be designed for first level supervisors. We wanted somebody coming into supervisory position for the very first time, not knowing what to do, to be able to succeed. That's what we want. We want our leaders to succeed, and we want them to succeed in a hybrid space, right? Second thing is we wanted it to be morale and people focused. If we are eventually, sneak preview, going to ask OPM to help us maintain this, we want it to match OPM's goal, and that is to be a federal, I lost the word again.
Model federal.
Ah, hey guys, it's right through the whole time. We want to be a model employer. That's what we want to be. And so we wanted to make this presentation these four things. We want it to be consolidated, very similar to the digital disaster deck, right? There are so many resources out there, but it's difficult to find the time to narrow it all down and to find the stuff that matters to you. So we built this so that it's consolidated. You can find it all in one spot. We want it to be accessible. If we're out here promoting hybrid teams, it's not gonna be helpful if just a piece of paper that you have to go to work to get, right? So we wanted it to be everywhere. We wanted it to be accessible. The third thing is we want it to be relevant. It's not helpful if the information that we share with you doesn't matter. So that's why we did this survey data. That's why we polled the people. We want to know. And the last thing, we want it to be maintainable. Like I talked about that sneak preview, we're going to get into that a little bit later.
One of the things you're going to find within our toolbox is a collection of different articles divided by subject. So it shows quiet quitting. What is quiet quitting? Is that a TikTok video? Right? Well, that may be silly, but you employees are being affected by that. So educating and informing your leaders of how to handle that TikTok, it is key. The beauty and the unique about this toolbox is that you can access these articles not only within your government computer, but on your personal device. And the transition from the toolbox to the current OPM platform will be a natural development.
An additional sneak preview into our toolbox. And that's what we're doing here, is just showing you little tiny pieces of what this toolbox is. Not the whole thing, but just to get you hooked so that we can sell you on it. It's a communication technique. We have identified when we're talking to bigger teams, and we've polled, like I said, we've polled the people. The biggest part of success in a hybrid space is effective communication. And one of the best ways to do that is to have a language that every team can speak, right? Everybody knows the words, everybody's familiar with that language. And so if you use one of our 3 examples, or just use that as a jumping board to start your own communication style and technique, then you're able to effectively communicate with your team better.
So I can't say this enough. Recognition really is a key ingredient to that recipe for success, and we really need to take the time to recognize employees for their contributions. And this can come in many forms. You can see here, Public Service Recognition Week. That's a pretty formal, right? Recognition ceremony. It can come monetary, it could be a time off award. You could make a certificate and present that at a team meeting and share that recognition with everybody. A thank you card. And it could be just simply walking by someone in the hall and saying, hey, thank you so much.
Thanks,
That really, but all of these examples, right? Some of these require us to be in person, and we're talking about tools that we need when we're working in a hybrid environment. So what are some of those other recognition ideas that leaders can tap into to help them when they're leading hybrid teams? And that's really important. I just want to also talk about, it's more than just recognizing your team members, right? It's really fostering that environment where recognition is at the core. This is the foundation that we're built upon, is recognition. We appreciate each other, and it's building that up and making sure that we're encouraging peer-to-peer recognition. It isn't just a leader from the top down. You did a good job. You did a good job. It's all of us saying to each other how much we appreciate what effort they've put in to get us to where we are today. And then as we might have some issues as we know, when we're working on teams, there's always could be some type of issues that present themselves. I think Dan's got some strategies he's helped out with.
We got some de-escalation tactics as part of it. As we know, as time goes on and distance becomes greater with teams, your communication doesn't really get better when you're not in the office. So face-to-face communication being a little bit more restricted. You know, not everyone is comfortable working through WebEx, Teams, Zoom, whatever, in the different platforms. So knowing that there's some really common, really simple steps to helping de-escalate a situation when that confusion or that tone deaf email or whatever else not gets sent out, and you're trying to cool things back down to get back to a place of efficient performance. We got not only multiple articles that we use that we reference as part of the guide, but also like 5 key steps that really actually came from the basis of customer service, which is really interesting, which are just as applicable. You think of those people on the phones dealing with, well, you can imagine. And much better to use those people who have tried and true experience. And then we leverage that again, as we have for the rest of the toolbox in one central location.
All right, so this time, no pun intended, I do love puns. But the project is near and dear to our heart. OPM, we really feel that OPM's transition right now, we can use that as an opportunity for us, for this leadership toolbox, to extend beyond the Oregon Federal Executive Board and to those federal executive boards that they're standing up nationwide, right? We really see this being a great tool for our leadership and for our future leaders, just like us. This would help us to broaden our perspective, right? Bringing in more agencies. So we're reinforcing that. And then another plus to this is we're able to leverage what's already been built. So OPM already has some online resources available to leaders today, and they also provide some training. So we know that they have that website stood up that they could add a leadership toolbox to, so that it was accessible to all federal leaders in the government.
So in closing, we just want to say that we see this project doing amazing things, right? You can tell that we're passionate about it. We've worked really hard on this, just like our fellow associates, and we see this project going somewhere, but we can't do it forever, the 4 of us, right? We can't maintain that forever. And so we would like to offer the suggestion to future associates groups and to our OPM partners that this project and guys' projects are really good too, and they should do it too. That we have built a foundation on this project that feels like it has a lot of potential. And so we would like to pass the baton of this project to the next years. I know we don't have one coming up in 2024, but we have one coming up in 2025, and we would be happy to pass this project on to another group. And we would like to suggest that future associates are always given the option to do one of 2 things. 1, start up their project brand new, just like we did and most of our class did, or 2, take on a previous year's project and expand. We've seen the success with that with Public Service Recognition Week, and we think this project also have that amazing potential, and we'd like to see it flourish. Any questions?
Can you answer questions? Yes.
Yeah, David.
Can you do the robot again?
Always, David. Always ready for the robot.
So thank you, great presentation. Very interested. And I'm curious on one of your earlier slides, if you wouldn't mind going back, I can't remember exactly, but it was on the data on the survey you did, and other came up on the right side quite a bit, and I was curious what was in there. Sorry if I can't remember which one it was.
No, I think it's a couple, I think it's one more, keep going. This one.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, that kind of jumped out.
Go ahead.
When we built the survey, we thought of the options, right? We give everybody an option, but we decided to use other as, maybe we're not thinking of everything. Maybe we are not 100%. Maybe my agency doesn't have time, but her agency does. So the other section will give you that option. So not to dictate a pick between A and B,
Right.
but hey, you have A, B, and C. Maybe your agency can fit on C. And the foundation of the survey, we were trying to make it small, 2 minutes. That way we get more participants. So we didn't really open or left any open questions for people to elaborate.
Did you have some trends though in that category that kind of popped out?
Yes, it was really fun actually going through the data. Survey Monkey and Dan was pretty good at it. And we were able to remove supervisors, and then we were able to add only employees, and then we were able to just select specific agencies, and we saw really good trends. However, we choose not to disclose none of that data because the people who participated, they were informed that it was a private question. You know, we will not be sharing your answer, but yes, we do. And we could provide that data. but we did not.
Well, I only want to add that we actually recognized, even amongst our team, a couple of things. One being how hard it is to work hybrid together, cross agency, and what platforms we can use and how we have to use personal devices and things like that. But another, to your point, is how we don't have the same resources available. So what resources might be available to me at the Bonneville Power Administration for recognition, let's say, would not be the same resources that Ally has available to her at Social Security. And so we really needed to keep that in mind as we're looking at, you know, what options are actually out there for leaders to use when recognizing their employees and thinking about what resources we actually do have available.
And also just, we're all gonna add something. Just to make sure I'm hearing your question correctly, I just wanna make sure that, when you're talking about this other specifically in this question, you're referencing maybe if somebody added their own suggestion to this list and it was not an open other question.
Right, I'm wondering what other is a large quantity there. and so I'm
Exactly.
wondering how many times what that other was that kind of popped out that was high. That's what I'm just curious about.
Yeah, this was certainly the highest other question that we had. And unfortunately, we weren't able to leave that as an open question where people could make their own suggestions. It was just, you had to pick the selection.
it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we were even considering not putting other in there because then this would happen, right? And we're like, oh, well, we don't know. But I think it's encouraging to see that it's through the stomach, right? People like the food, but there is a high percentage of people that want to do something else. We don't know what that is. So it's an invitation to you all to ask your teams. Okay, here's this one snapshot from this one presentation that I went to this one time. And they told me that you guys like other stuff. What's other stuff, right?
Great.
And so I think it's an open invitation to talk to your teams about what they like and make it bespoke and cater to them. Yeah.
So the EPA's zipline trip went in other.
Easily, absolutely. When are we going? I'm ready. I love this.
We want a fishing excursion. That's all
Fishing
I-
excursions,
Laser tag.
laser tag, other.
Range, yeah. One thing I'll add too, as part of this wonderful toolbox we developed, is actually we do include a section that's specific to taking surveys. So that question that you asked, if you want to dig deeper, we actually provide some sample questions and advice on how to target that. Because the last thing people want is survey fatigue, right? Sending survey after survey after survey.
Yeah.
I get too many surveys. I want a 2-minute or less survey that targets what you're interested in. And this provides that avenue. So not knowing what other is, now we can dig into it.
Good. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Pretty exclusive.
While we do a set change for the next part of our program today, I want to first deliver a compliment. I really appreciate the depth of design thinking that you guys have gone through in these projects. Good design work. Fabulous. And the other is I want to reinforce the importance of the potluck in those results. And say that as an effort to, one of the things we do is we train ultimately to bring together coalitions, both of different federal agencies and with the public. So as an effort to keep this coalition together, I have prepared a small OFEB 2023 coalition cookbook. So before you leave today, I invite you to come see me, and each of you gets one page of the cookbook. And then to get the whole cookbook, you have to share it amongst yourself. Are we ready? All right, I'll get out of the way.
Thank you so much, Chris. I have a little comment about Chris. So I was able to attend some of the final classes the classroom setting. And at the final class, there was a question that asked everyone to kind of reflect on the, best aspect of the program. And many of them, by the way, said the mentors, but several of the associates said that the best thing about this program was Chris Dennis. So, on behalf of everyone, thank you, Chris, for everything you've done. Okay, so the next section is the presentation of our graduating class, and I'll have Brock come forward, who is
Yeah, don't bother reading it. We're good. Hello, everybody. Great to meet you. I am Brock Young. I'm the incoming new program specialist for the Oregon Federal Executive Board. I am the current only I call it permanent party for the short term. So I will be your primary point of contact going forward through the ages of change. Thank you to Stephanie. Thank you to Lori, who did an outstanding job. Thank you previously to Joyce and Katie and everybody who took part in developing the program that we see today. So yeah, so developing rising federal leaders, having been 24 years in the United States Army, one of the things I got heavily involved in was leadership development. So this program is very near and dear to my heart, though I'm just seeing it now. I am looking forward to being the foundation or being part of the foundation with it going forward and trying to figure out how we get it going, if not in 2024, definitely in 2025. So I have taken copious amounts of notes regarding your projects, and yes, rest assured, I am going to find a way to be able to save these, put them somewhere so future classes can take advantage and build upon what you've built. Having been part of and seen other leadership development programs, these projects often die on the vine. As soon as you leave, that's great, cool. It's off into some share drive somewhere, and it's never heard from again. So you put in the effort, you put in the time. Some of those. That last group, the information that you shared was just amazing. That's not to say everybody else's wasn't. But and again, how do we continue to make things better? We don't start from scratch always. So constantly improving upon what is. Sometimes we got to scrap it. I'm not a believer in sunk cost. Sometimes you just got to look at something, say, hey, this doesn't work. Let's get rid of it, start over. But the things I saw today, I'm here to tell you that, yes, these are things that we definitely want to not let, rot on the vine. We want to be able to give it to the next class, give it to the next group of associates to be able to build upon it. So then someday as your, GS 15s, SES, folks, you can be like, I took part in that. I helped build that once upon a time. So, but one of the things, again, coming from the military, and that's where my major mindset is, it's always struck me that leadership is across the board. Whether you're the lowliest private, whether you're lowliest GS4, you are still a leader. You are still showing somebody else what to do. You're still an example of what to be in the federal government as a federal employee. You're still able to help that underserved community, those individuals in there that don't know about federal employment, federal opportunities, federal jobs. That's why I do what I do with the military. I didn't know anything about the federal government. I knew that the Pentagon was one thing and the White House was something else, and they all affected my pay or made me deploy me someplace. Now that I'm part of the federal government, I see that a little bit more in depth from the inside, and the lessons I learned absolutely can be taken and moving in, and I see what you've done here, and I see the growth and the path that you're taking, and I am happy to be finally part of it. So, so please feel free to reach out to me. Anybody who was in the region, let me know how I can help you. That's why I'm here. I'm here to help you as a member of the FEB. Colby, thank you very much for allowing me to be here. So, gave me a choice of LA or Oregon, and to me, there was not a decision. So yeah. So with that, I do want to just say thank you very much for being here, family, mentors, representatives of your agencies within the region. A quick round of applause for you all, because I'm going to tell you something here in a second that you're going to have to keep your applause to yourself. So a round of applause for everybody. So with that said, we're gonna get into the meat and potatoes of this event. We're gonna congratulate and honor our graduating associates. Please keep all applause until the end and when told to do so. We don't want to overwhelm the folks online. So if I could have the staff come up, please. All right. First associate is Kingston Chirot. There you go. Yes, if the associates could, please line up. Good call.
Congratulations.
Stop it.
Sorry. This is an iPhone. If it had Android- if you had an Android, that wouldn't work.
Got it.
Shots fired, one. Congratulations.
And then please exit that. Next, Naomi Eckstein. Eckstein?
Eckstein, like
Eckstein.
a beer stein, yeah.
There you go.
Congratulations. There's your certificate. Congratulations. Thank you so much.
Dean Inouye is not present. Everybody probably knows and understands what his situation is. So Daniel Jensen.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
Next, we have Sarah Castle.
And congratulations. Which means you have to take it. Oh.
Sarah.
I followed directions.
Jenny Lyman.
Congratulations. And congratulations.
Thank you.
Stephanie McNutt.
And congratulations. Thank you.
Paige Venice. Minis. Hooked on phonics. We're good.
And congratulations. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Felix Ortega.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
Thank you. Alejandrina Perez. David Rice.
And congratulations. Thank you.
And last but certainly not least, Cameron Wilson.
Congratulations. And congratulations.
Excellent. Colby Laurie, if I could have you please take a seat.
Absolutely.
And if our associates could please come back to the front. For the group photo. Front row, back row. Front row, back. Front row, back.
Yeah, I just noticed like I was having. Well done. Just a little.
But you should do the robot, David, always.
Everyone.
Always the move. Oh, my shin's so long, so my shoe.
Okay.
Where are we looking? So many.
Everywhere.
To the future.
Do I have one?
Rotate to the right.
I'll.
Oh, and can we get one with the,
Yeah.
Chris,
Scratch.
bring it in.
Actually, okay. Let's say, go on now. Okay.
Nice, I'm taking plenty, okay.
Perfect.
Everyone, I'd like to present the 2023 graduating Oregon Federal Executive Board Associates Program graduates.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Ah. Yay.
Right now, take your seats.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Melanie.
Almost there.
We have a couple of closing remarks today. The first person is Kieran Ramsey. Kieran is the special agent in charge for the state of Oregon for the FBI. Kieran.
Thank you. First off, thank you, Stephanie, and the board for having me here. And I want to give a special thank you to Dan for allowing me to be his mentor. I also do want to get with your team because I need to learn how to do that. And I'll also acknowledge the fact that in their survey, I don't think I was that mean sounding when he said, so this, and I said, so what? It really made me sound really cool. I mean, I am an FBI agent. So let me tell you why this is all important in the grander scheme of things. And I'll tell you from an SES agency head perspective. Because all of our agencies are very different. We have different missions and everything, but we have one commonality, and that's to serve the people that we are supposed to be serving, the taxpayer, the tribe, what have you. We have a big responsibility, and sometimes it's forgotten that actually that's why we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, and we're supposed to be doing it in the best way possible. And this is where this leadership intersection comes with us, because it is now this group and the groups before them and perhaps the groups after them that are going to be those leaders in your organizations that are going to make sure that you do it the right way. Now, I was absolutely blown away at the substantiveness, the timeliness, and the relevance of all three projects. To hear that to not hear any ambiguity about the need for all three, and I say it from my perspective as we stand here right now as the head of the FBI, that I know all three of those things are needed. You know, when we think about our intergenerational workforces across the federal government, you know, we have baby boomers, right? We have Gen Xers like myself, who are Gen Y or millennials. Okay, and what about our Gen Zers? Good, because we don't want to hear from Gen Zers anymore. But when it comes to all of that, this leadership aspect that you are now going to go take back, and quite honestly, I hope you take back these projects. I hope they don't die on the vine, as our colleague said. These are important things right now. The disaster toolkit, I would offer one suggestion. You got to think about cyber. Yeah, we're going to be subjected to the great shakeout, hopefully not while I'm living in Oregon, but you know, there's an entire possibility that we're going to face an asymmetric attack from a foreign adversary. That's the world I live in. Yeah. And how screwed up that will be. Yeah. And then from the mentorship or from the recruitment aspect, how critical is that right now? How many agencies are faced with a huge challenge to get the next generation in that are as good as you were when you came into the government? It is tough right now. Even in the FBI, it is tough. That's going to be hugely helpful. And then last but not least, this leadership toolkit for the hybrid workforce, which again, for the FBI has been a huge, huge challenge. I will confess on their survey responses, I made sure everybody in the FBI, when they responded to that, it was not potluck, it was free donuts. But with that, again, I want to express my appreciation to all of you that took part in this program. Again, I want to give Dan a special thanks for allowing me to be your mentor. It was a fantastic time together, and I really appreciate the Federal Executive Board's commitment to making sure we are, as the federal government, even with our tribal partners, we are truly focused on developing a next set of leaders that are going to help us across the board, especially in such a time where we have such, I'll call it hostility in theater in some of our elected corners of government that seemingly underappreciate all the things that you all do today. So with that, thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Kieran. As I mentioned earlier, when the associates were reflecting on the best aspect of the program, many of them did say having the mentors was the best part of this program. So if you're a mentor, can you please stand so we can recognize you? And mentoring is also public service, right? We need the mentors to help bring up the next group of rising leaders. So, okay, next. Colby, our regional director of the Federal Executive Boards, Colby Stanton, please.
Thank you. So I was proud to be able to present all of our graduates with an Oregon FEB coin, but if I could ask Stephanie to come up. I think everyone knows that Stephanie Odell has been kind enough to join us for a 4-month detail. And so I wanted to recognize you with a thank you and a congratulations from the National FEB organization. Just a small token of our appreciation and for all that you've done for the Oregon FEB during your brief details. We'd love to keep you on. I did try to talk her into staying longer. Something about a day job and work she had to get done. So.
I went either way.
True. So Stephanie asked me to say a few words about the federal executive boards and where we're going, but I have to start by recognizing and adding my thanks and congratulations to all of our associates. I'd heard great things, but absolutely your projects lived up to it. As you probably know, and I've heard transformation a few times, I heard OPM. So we are now all, our permanent staff at the federal executive boards are now all OPM employees. We're actually operating under a tri-governance network that's OPM, Tri-Governance Council, that's OPM, OMB, and GSA. And so I'm very excited about taking these projects back. We have, in addition, so I'm the Western Regional Director. That means I have FEMA, GSA Regions 9 and 10. I have 3 peers. We meet once a week and talk about what's going on. So I'm really excited about taking your projects back and seeing what we can do. We also have an FEB leadership team. We have an SESer who's in charge of the FEBs nationwide. And so I look forward. We have 2 calls a week. Actually, one is sort of, reporting what we all need to know to share with our staff, and the other one is very project oriented. So I will say that I have the mechanism to bring them back and present them. So thank you for all your hard work and everything you've done. I'm going to try to keep this brief because I recognize I'm between you and cookies, and that's never a comfortable place to be, especially after I've been told about the stomach orientation. So I actually live in Hawaii, and I will tell you, nothing happens in the Pacific without food. So I totally get it. But so, yeah, we've been going through this transformation over the last 18 months called FEB Forward, trying to bring us from the FEBs that were created in 1961 to make sure that we can meet the needs of the federal family today and into the future. We have some key pillars for FEB Forward that I think are really will resonate with all of you. A key objective of FEB Forward is to fortify the FEBs, strengthening our role as a strategic asset for interagency collaboration. As you can imagine, that doesn't roll off my tongue, so I have to check my notes. But we have always served as a national network with local connections, and I think that that's really critical. I love that aspect of the disaster toolbox. I think that that's really key to be able to provide the national information, but then that tie to the locality. I've been really impressed. I've been sort of on a road show meeting all of the FEBs, and the Oregon FEB, no doubt, is one of our strongest in terms of interagency collaboration and coordination and the commitment to being an effective group in meeting the needs of the public, as Karen said. And really, the key to the success of the Oregon FEB is its role in fostering communication, coordination, and collaboration across the federal government and also with state and local and tribal governmental agencies to create value for the public. I hope that, having learned about the importance of collaboration and interagency partnerships throughout this program, our graduating associates will take that mission back with them to their agencies. And I hope that you'll remain engaged with the FEBs as you move forward. I know that after an intensive program like this, it can be very tempting to go home, especially with the holidays coming, to go home and get back to your day job when you come back and kind of forget everything that you've learned and everything you've done. I'd really encourage you not to do that. We have a number of great programs with the Federal Executive Board, especially with the Oregon FEB. So if you don't mind, I'm just going to spend a moment advertising a few things that you might stay involved with. And I'm going to grab a drink. My apologies. I've been promised it was wet here, but apparently not as wet as I was expecting. So just a few things that we do. We have the Oregon FEB has a training committee. Obviously, the associates program is the biggest part of that, but we also offer other training. And across the region, we're going to be offering more webinars and sort of short nuggets of learning across the year. We also have career fairs and other recruitment-oriented activities, a diversity, equity, and inclusion subcommittee that is right up the alley for one of your projects, through which you can share tools and information, maybe an opportunity to share your specific project. The Oregon FEB's Public Service Recognition Week. I saw the picture. I know you're all aware of it. The crisis, this one I've been saying C3 for a while now, but I have to learn Crisis Continuity Coalition Subcommittee, say that 3 times quickly, which addresses emergency preparedness needs of the interagency community. And the Shared Neutrals Subcommittee, which helps to support requests for mediation and facilitation across the federal family. Each of those activities is really part of, as I said, a key pillar of the FEB Forward effort to ensure excellence and operational impact. We all do better at our jobs when we work together to learn the lessons of other agencies and to partner and get out of our silos. The FEBs work to foster a culture of innovation and continuous growth that translates into streamlined processes and effective outcomes across the federal community. And so the activities that I've just talked about, the subcommittees, are only successful if we have innovative leaders like yourself, bringing your energy and your ideas to help everybody work together to meet the needs of the public. So as I said, each of you is emerging from a unique opportunity for professional development within a group of motivated federal peers who care deeply about the impact of public service. I'll encourage you, as I said, to do 2 things, really. One of those is to make time for yourself when you go back to your agency to revisit what you've learned, to make a deliberate point now of thinking about what is it that you've captured from this that you want to make sure that you can come back to. And then make a date with yourself, you know, once a quarter, once a month, whatever you think makes sense. Revisit what you've learned in this program so that you don't do the human thing and go back to the routine and go back to your old habits. That's one thing. The second, I'm really going to encourage you to remain committed to the value of interagency communication, coordination, and collaboration in the furtherance of increased federal effectiveness and continued innovation. Your agencies and the public have made a commitment to you through this leadership program, and I know that you'll make them proud. Thank you.
Thank you, Colby. So that actually concludes our program today. Just associates, I wanted to say graduation is not the end. It's actually the beginning. So as Colby said, go forth, lead with courage, make us all proud associates. So congratulations again. We are now opening up the room for photos. So please take photos with your supervisors and family, and we have a lot of refreshments still, so make yourself enjoy and time to mingle. Thank you, everyone. Ta-da! That's wow. We don't have quite a bit of